What is up, YouTube? What is up, Instagram? Matt here. Hope you guys are having a good Monday night. We're doing our thing as usual. So I know people often have been asking recently, like what I'm smoking. So tonight is a blend of Hid Stash and Lemon Haze. So there we go. Again, my quick little disclaimer in case you guys have never hung out with me on Monday night before. I never tried weed until I was 25. At that point in time, I was confident based upon some of the medical journal summaries I'd read and stuff that the consequences were not that significant. So, and in fact, I think that there's a lot of potential positives if you read into the literature. So, food for thought. If you guys, if your only reason for disliking this vice is simply because society and the government told you so, they maybe didn't have your best interest in heart. But let's do this. Anyways, if you guys got questions, hit me up. Always happy to chat and answer your questions. This is kind of an ask me anything. So just ask away, guys. We got July 1st next week. Any big July 1st plans, I should say? What's going on in YouTube? About to light up. Awesome. Doggies blaze and forget to turn on the camera. Okay. Did you buy the triplex on Princess with meters? No, I don't really buy any small multifamilies anymore, guys. We're all about that purpose-built multifamily life now. So this Friday, we're finally going to be closing on this 30-unit building that's been taking us way too long to close on. God damn, is COVID a pain in the ass when it comes to financing. But it's one of those things where it's problems or profits. You get to choose your own adventure. I recommend focusing on the profits and just overcoming those problems as you encounter them. Should come to Buffalo sometime. Yeah, I'd potentially be down once borders are open and all that fun stuff. I think originally this summer we were planning on doing some crazy ass road trips. I don't know if any of that stuff's going to come to fruition. Was really thinking about renting out an RV and just driving across the country and shooting YouTube video after YouTube video and trying to really just dominate the Canadian real estate YouTube content scene. We'll see whether that still happens. Matt, would you ever buy a restaurant for development? If you're saying, would I buy a restaurant and then, would I buy a building that whose tenant is a restaurant and then try and become my own tenant by operating a restaurant? Unlikely. I grew up kind of working in kitchens and restaurants, and while they certainly can be a successful business, there's a lot of people in that niche that fail, and I think that it's a business niche that's going to go through a lot of changes in the near future. So I think you're going to see a lot of challenges, both because of the impact that COVID's had just on human psychology, but also human habits. And in addition, looking at, the advent of ghost kitchens and things like Uber Eats and Skip the Dishes, I think that we're going to see a lot of changes in the near future in the restaurant space. One thing that I think could be interesting is a return to private clubs or semi-private clubs and things of that nature. I think people want a sense of, if they're going to go to the hassle of going out, I think they want a sense of exclusivity and a sense of belonging. If you guys didn't know, I've always been a big fan of the idea of French salons during say the revolutionary times in France, and just that idea of having a front parlor or a salon where literally just great thinkers come to think and drink and explore the human condition. I would consider doing something like that, but just owning a straight up restaurant, nah, not that interested. Yeah, I already got talking so much, Austin, that it's gone out once, but we'll get it going again. How's everyone's Monday going? Just wrapped up my Cashflow Tribe class. How did I meet JC Wong? Hey, what's up? Shout out to Brooklyn. Yeah, I met JC Wong just at a networking event. So you guys always hear me telling you to go out to local networking events. Well, you should go out to local networking events so that you can meet local investors like Casey. So literally back in 2018, Back in 2018, myself and Jeff Weibel went to a local real estate networking event, bumped into Casey, chatted with him really briefly, seemed like a really nice guy. We talked a little bit about real estate. He was like, oh, I'm getting into buying apartment buildings. I was like, that's cool. I want to do that. I've got a couple small apartment buildings. Chatted back and forth for a little bit. And then didn't hear from him for like a year. And then a year later, JC Wong sends me a DM. It's just like, hey, been following your YouTube channel a bit. What you guys are doing is pretty cool. If you ever want me to come on the channel, let me know and I'd be happy to make a video about my apartment buildings. Reminder, I'm the short little Asian guy that you met at the rain event. I was like, sure, let's do it. I had no idea what to expect. Myself and Adam Martin just showed up and we happened to bring 2 cameras, started talking with Casey, and he just started really telling raw, real facts. I ran back, got the camera. I was like, hey man, let's just talk and hang out. And so we just walked around this building. The one video went viral, which was awesome. I love it when my videos go viral. So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, that's kind of how I met Casey Wong. And then again, we both just have good intentions. Hey, what's up, Quentin? And both just have good intentions and desires. So we really resonate well with each other. And probably pre-COVID, we'd get together kind of once a month and just catch up and stuff. And yeah, that is how I know Casey. All right, gas on gas. I'm not even sure what that means. How old is Matt? I am 35 years old, but I am much younger at heart. Austin Ye in the house. Cool, guys. Let's see what's going on YouTube. All right, YouTube. Ottawa doesn't have any properties over 0.5% value. Any advice for purchasing and managing from a distance? Yeah, when purchasing or managing from a distance, it really is just about systems and getting the right people into place. So regardless of whether you're managing from afar or you're investing locally, you should always be focused on the who that solves the what. Way too often we get caught up trying to solve the what ourselves, and we really set ourselves up for failure. So you need to find someone that's a really competent operator for your business. So look for things like getting referrals. Don't be afraid to go spot check the properties they currently manage, do a drive-by, walk the halls, that sort of stuff. Really just get dialed into how they currently operate the buildings if you're looking at handing over the management of your portfolio to them. And understand that no one is ever going to respect your money more than you. Just straight up, that's how it works. So even if you get a good manager, you still have to manage the manager. It's just that simple. Matt's looked the same age forever, minus the beard. I'll take that. Matt, should a new investor hesitate jumping into real estate right now, given the current climate? Andrew, as long as you're investing for fundamentals and you're clear on what your goals are as an investor, I don't think that there's any real risks or issues with investing in this market. The real key is just understanding what you want and really abiding by that guideline or set of rules that you set out for yourself. So what ends up happening too often that I see a mistake new investors make is they decide that they're going to get into investing. They set out a good set of criteria for themselves. But then after a month or two of like losing bidding wars, of getting denied by sellers, they start to doubt their business model. And then they start to compromise on their numbers. And all of a sudden they're like, well, I really wanted the 1% rule because I'm a cash flow investor, but I can't find a property that meets the 1% rule, so I'll just buy a 0.5% rule. It's when you compromise like that you actually really find yourself in a bad position. You eventually get behind the 8 ball because something else doesn't click on the investment that you were trying to do. And now all of a sudden you really get into a lose-lose situation because you've got an underperforming asset and your only exit strategy now is to sell. And if the market doesn't happen to be hot in that moment, well, you're going to lose money. So to me, it's really just about getting dialed in to to what your business model is, and what your business model is has to depend upon what your 5 or 10-year goal as an investor is. So if you just want to get into real estate to get rich or make money, understand that's not a goal, that's just a dream. You need to take that dream and you need to get more specific, and you need to create what we call SMART goals. SMART goals being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Austin's asking, any albums, artists, songs, and or musicians that motivates you to elevate your business? I personally find music just as motivating as videos. Yeah, there are so many good rappers that motivate me. My personal favorite is G-Eazy. So literally, like, he's got like albums that are almost just like motivational porn in my opinion, but songs like Random, Oh Well, Been On, Easy, Achievement, there's a lot of great songs that he's done. So anything even from that era of G-Eazy I think is fantastic. In fact, probably twice a month at least, I literally do like lyric breakdowns on my team meetings for my teams, where I'm just like, listen to it. Like, this dude literally lays out the plan. And like, he'll just talk about grinding hard for 10 years and then winning. And I'm like, yes, that's how it actually works. Everyone wants this overnight success, and it just, that doesn't exist in the real world, just straight up. No such thing as an overnight success. They're either built upon previous failures or upon experience or counsel from someone that's had previous failures and successes. But there's no one that gets overnight success. And so I really enjoy his music because I find it really discusses that at length. J. Cole, I think he's just fire. Especially, you know, songs like False Prophets and Middle Child, those songs really motivate me as well, because in those songs he's kind of talking about, hey, you've hit some success. Like, you've had some success, and now you're realizing that, like, you're actually going to have to keep pushing through, and you're going to have to keep working, even though you're already really successful. You're going to have to keep challenging yourselves, and that to me is amazing. But honestly, there's so many good rappers out there that I do find motivating. Like, some of Russ's older stuff I also found to be great. And yeah. So I think, like, when talking through the motivational lens, those songs definitely, and those artists fire me up a lot. And then like Eminem and stuff like that too as well, but that probably seems cliche. Matt, what do you think about buying a pre-construction condo and renting it out when it's ready? Straight up, guys, I'm not a big fan of buying pre-construction condos, and it's for a multitude of reasons. Now, understand that when I say I'm not a big fan of it, it doesn't mean that people won't make money. Because in fact, I have no doubt that there are and will be a lot of people make money on pre-construction condos. But my biggest issue is, one, lack of control. So just straight up, the reason we buy real estate is to have control. Understand, buying a condo, inherently you have less control. Buying a pre-construction condo, you've even got less control over the scenario. In fact, oftentimes those pre-construction condo contracts will have things that restrict your ability to assign or sell the paper before closing, or it'll have to be dependent upon, you know, the building already selling out, things of that nature. Secondly, one of my reasons I really don't like pre-construction condos is it's very rare that you're going to truly cash flow. And now when I say truly cash flow, I mean like that's accounting for a property manager, repairs and maintenance, a vacancy reserve, all that jazz. And I just find most Toronto investors, when they talk about cash flow, once I ask them how I calculate my numbers and reviewed their data, I find that they're really not cash flowing. So that's probably the second biggest reason I'm not a fan of pre-construction condos. And then third is just, it's hard for me not to believe that you're primarily counting on the greater fool investment theory. And so the greater fool investment theory is literally you're just counting on someone being willing to pay more for something than you did. Think about tulips, right? Or think about the way a lot of people think about Bitcoin. Now, arguably Bitcoin is a medium of exchange and I'm not going to get into cryptocurrencies. I think at some point in time, cryptocurrencies, there will be a multitude of cryptocurrencies that will be quite practical for day-to-day use and achieve a certain level of stability. But even now you're primarily counting on the greater fool theory when it comes to cryptocurrencies, because no one knows who wins that war. Right now, like, it's not even like we got a Pepsi Coke battle. We've literally got thousands and thousands of different competitors in the space that could always still be one level of innovation away from becoming obsolete or having to hard pivot, or one piece of government regulation away from having to hard pivot. So just food for thought there. How do you feel about lower end rentals? I have a triplex I'm looking to buy, third triplex, but the neighborhood is a bad rap, building's great, and it will cash flow. So I think there's a few things to understand. What a neighborhood's reputation and what a neighborhood's reality is may not always be the same. So if the reality is it's a bad neighborhood with rough tenant profiles that do a lot of damage, that consistently don't pay, if it's a landlord's nightmare, then these days at my state in life, I don't want to take on, nightmares. So I'm probably going to hard pass on those sort of opportunities. Now at the start, I found a lot of opportunity and profit in focusing on kind of middle to lower end rental units. So I am familiar with that asset class. And I think, if you're doing your research right, if you're kind of strategically sniping properties, right? Maybe it's on the border. Maybe it's in a neighborhood that's specifically going to gentrify. And when we talk about like the neighborhood gentrifying, understand you can't just cross your fingers and hope that someday it's going to get nicer. I literally look for consistent patterns before I would consider a property or a neighborhood to be gentrified. Specifically here in London, there's a company called Medallion. Medallion bought and acquired towers on the corner of Kipps Lane and Adelaide, an area that used to be notorious in London for being like a bad part of town. Some old school Londoners will be like, oh, that's London's Jane and Finch. One, I don't even really know what Jane and Finch is, but two, I know London doesn't have a Jane and Finch. Second, they then moved into the Old East Village and built 3 towers there. And now what's important is not just that this company is moving into these neighborhoods that seem to consistently gentrify, but they're in part responsible for it, because when they build these new towers or flip apartment buildings, they're actually really improving the quality of rental stock, which improves the quality of tenants in general, which brings often a lot of middle income into neighborhoods that previously didn't have it, which really helps support any local commercial real estate going on, which like creates those kind of trendy arts and craft hipster sort of stores. So when I saw that Medallion was moving into the Old East Village and building 3 towers, and each tower was going to have on average 300 apartments, I was like, that's 900 like middle income-ish family units that are going to be moving into this neighborhood. That's going to have a massive impact. And then when I saw that they got the rights to the Soho hospital grounds here in London, which is again is in a neighborhood that right now is pretty rough around the edges for London at least. I'm like, wow, I want to own real estate in Soho. So I don't mind buying in rougher neighborhoods, especially if there's the upside of gentrification. I'm still going to want cash flow today, and the gentrification and appreciation is just like the icing on the cake. It's not the main meal, in my opinion. I'm always going to be a cash flow investor first. Unless we're like flipping, in which case I just want a quick profit first. So I hope that helps answer your question there, James. All right. Yeah, appreciate 43 people on YouTube, 30 on IG. That is awesome. Finish the blunt, bro. Could you give us tips on how to increase your inbound leads? Omnipresence. Just be everywhere, make sure everyone knows what you're trying to do. How is student rental market post-COVID? I'm looking to buy a property in Sarnia. So student rental properties are very school specific right now. So get dialed into what's going on in the exact city. So if you're looking at Sarnia, that's Lambton College. So I would be contacting Lambton College and finding out, have they postponed the fall semester? Is it going to be online, or are they going to be doing straight up normal classes? If they're returning to normal for their fall semester, I wouldn't have significant concerns. If you're dealing with schools that are postponing for the fall semester, well, understand there's going to be at least some pain through fall. And there could even be more pain if there's a second wave of infections, or if there's a mutation, or whatever other crazy shit gets thrown at us this year. There could definitely be more disruptions to how education is delivered, particularly for post-secondary students. So there is an inherent risk there. Now, does that mean you should go running away from student rentals? I don't think so. I think that it's very deeply ingrained in our culture right now that students need this experience. Right or wrong, I think it's pretty ingrained in our culture. So I suspect that it's not going to disappear overnight, but it could for certain programs or institutions. And so it's important to go eyes wide open into those scenarios. So what worst case scenario? That school disappears. Can you pivot? Well, in a market like Sarnia, yeah, you can pivot because Sarnia's got the giant plant expansion. Now, the plant expansion is related to oil, so again, that's a market right now that's a little volatile, but is oil going to disappear overnight? I don't think so, but again, you never know. It is 2020 after all, but I suspect it's not going to disappear overnight because even if all of a sudden there was a miracle technology, the implementation and just rollout at a massive scale still takes time. So I suspect that a market like Sarnia should be relatively stable regardless of what happens. So then what I'm going to look at is what's my realistic worst case scenario. Well, realistic worst case scenario is I can't rent out to the class of tenants I thought, which were student rentals in your scenario. So I'm going to pivot and look at, what would happen as a normal rental. If it would cash flow and still fit within my business model as a normal rental, well, then I think you're good to go and go buy that property. If it doesn't work as a normal rental, well, either come to terms with that or decide that that's too risky for your personal risk profile and move on until you find a property that does. And I believe I just nailed the answer to your question. All right, where are the rest of these questions? Duplex or rent till you buy so much it pays for a house. Duplex or rent till you buy so much. I'm not sure I understand your question, but in general, house hack is always the answer. My student houses are in London, Ontario. Hoping one of these days I'll have enough properties to have you visit us in Cornwall, Ontario. First two worked out awesome. That's awesome, James. Yeah, keep it up, man. And Cornwall's a bit of a hike, but if we get an RV and we road trip across this country, we will definitely hit up Cornwall. What's your long-term goal? Is it just to rack up properties and sell at retirement? No, I got much bigger goals than that. So they're big goals. We can go down that rabbit hole if you guys want, but I have done it a few times on social media in the past, so I don't know if people are tired or fatigued of me going over what my goals are, but they're very big, ambitious goals because Bill Gates, I believe, said this, and it's words to live by. People overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in 10. So I think it's actually very important that you set a huge 10-year goal. When I was 25, I set a 10-year goal of being financially independent and retiring early and just having a big real estate portfolio. Well, spoiler alert, I'm 35 right now. I've got what a lot of people would consider to be a big real estate portfolio. I've been retired as a CPA for 4 years, and I just play around on social media, and somehow this is kind of my job right now, which is smoking weed and interacting with strangers over the internet. So I wish I would have dreamed bigger 10 years ago, straight up, but I'm glad that I had the balls to dream as big as I did back then. If I wouldn't have had the balls at 25 to go around and tell my buddies that I was going to retire at age 35, I never would have done it at 31. And there's no way I would be here now. So for me, it's critical to have massively big ambitions because I'm pretty sure I'll actually hit that shit. I'm pretty sure you guys will hit that shit too if it actually matters to you. Lost my filter. Let's see if we can get this back. This is ridiculous this is what I do. What form of private lending is best? So I understand the intentions behind that question, but it's not necessarily a question that really has an answer. Because the answer is going to be, it depends upon the deal and what your goals are with the deal. So it's going to be very nuanced towards how you structure that. Now, in general, having more options is almost always the right answer. So go talk to a bunch of different mortgage brokers, talk to a bunch of different private lenders, build a bunch of relationships, and then figure out what you're trying to accomplish with real estate and what fits best for your specific scenario. Are you still hiring on your wholesale team? Yes, we're always hiring. Would I be allowed to finish my last year of university? No. You can apply when you're done university if you want, but no. No part-timers. Just ain't got time for that bullshit. I don't do this part-time. No one else on my team should either. What's a better market right now, London or Windsor, or do you feel it's similar? Obviously, which market's better depends upon your goals as an investor, but I think that they're quite similar compared to the rest of Canada. So both markets were appreciating in the double-digit rates pre-COVID. Both markets had very low vacancy rates. Both markets had relatively strong employment. Both markets are on the 401 corridor, which is the busiest highway corridor in North America. They're both close to the biggest border crossing. So for a multitude of reasons, I am bullish. Windsor's got the 2 big bridge projects as well, so I think that's an added bonus for them. But I'm also local to London, so I'm kind of biased and think London's the best. Oh, I got smoky. All right, well, while I start to cry from smoke, I'll see what else is going on in these comments. What mortgage broker can you recommend to me that is experienced and understands? I live in the Peel region. Hit up our boys at Finlay Mortgages. If you guys haven't seen, we've done some great videos related to mortgage products from the Finlay guys. They do a lot of stuff online now, so you can literally get all your documents and information to them online through this cool portal system they've got. And 2 young, aggressive, hungry guys answer the phone fast, and they work with a lot of investors, and they're currently helping us fund one of our big multifamily deals. So I'd recommend hitting them up, but also make sure that you hit up a bunch of different service providers, right? The more is more. The more connections, the more people you can find to give you options, just the better off you're going to be long term. Yeah, as the Hungarian experiment saying, we got like 53 people watching, 17 likes. If you guys could give us a couple more likes, that would be super cool. Insurance providers. I would recommend, I'm biased here, but I really like working with local farm mutual insurance companies. So that's who I'd recommend you guys hit up. I find them to be very competitive on pricing, as well as very relationship oriented. And that relationship oriented piece is really important to me. Okay, let me catch up here on IG. This live feeds drinking words are invested rules. Here we go. Oh man. Yeah, hopefully we'll reconnect with our boy Graham Stephan soon. Originally, he was going to come down here in April for OREC 2020, but then COVID happened, which was totally lame. But hopefully we'll get him back in Canada soon, or we'll go visit him. Do I ever feel that smoking negatively impacts my business? Yes, absolutely, but I feel like that's almost an unfair statement. So if you were to ask me overall, do I believe that smoking is a net benefit or net detriment to my business? I would argue a net benefit, but that's not to say at times that I don't use it or I don't use it to negative consequences. to say that like sometimes you're like, I'm just going to relax and smoke weed and watch a movie or do this, that, or the other. At the same time, I will also smoke weed and clean my room, or smoke weed and work on a bunch of work, write a bunch of scripts, blog posts, things like that. So it's kind of, you know, to me overall, I believe it to be a net positive, or else I wouldn't indulge in it. The same with any other drug, legal or illegal, that I may use. What's up, guys? Nipsey, oh yeah, Nipsey Hussle. I don't know how I forgot Nipsey. Actually, I've been listening to him a lot too recently. I don't know what triggered me all of a sudden going back and listening a bunch to him, but yeah, anyways, really been enjoying Nipsey Hussle recently. And like, also for some like other rappers that might be, I don't know, like sometimes I even hesitate to say rappers that might be below the radar, because then people turn out to be fans of mine. They're like actually really hardcore rap fans, and they actually have really niche rappers. But like YBN Cordae, I really like his stuff. His response to J. Cole's 1985 was a lot of fun. I think they both have good arguments made, but like when rappers are interacting like that, it's so much fun, in my opinion. Like I just thought that was so well done. Joyner Lucas, but I don't feel like he's under the radar really much anymore. Man, there's someone else recently that I've been really enjoying. I'm sure it'll come to me later. I'll just randomly yell it out. Hey man, what do you do when one of your properties goes over budget for the year? Do you pull from others? Yeah, it is what it is. So we usually keep a reserve fund in each account, or for each property. In general, like a $2,000 to $5,000 float. So that will often cover any small incidentals. Anything bigger is kind of would be a large deviation, and in that case, yeah, we'd either pull from other accounts, or one of myself or a business partner would just lend money to the corporation or the property. Yeah. I've listened to a lot more music, but I can't literally think of any other rappers right now. Although I'm really enjoying our boy I Am Dan, local rapper from London, Ontario. Also Lil Snooze from Sarnia. Really love Casper Marcus here in London as well. Love supporting local. Biggest difference in due diligence between multifamily 6 units and small multis? The cost, Austin. The cost. Oh, the cost of multifamily due diligence is so much more expensive, especially during COVID. And now that they've sunk their teeth into us, they're never going to give up. So like, I think you're pretty much just going to have to do phase 2 environmentals for almost every property you ever buy. So you're probably going to drop at least 14 grand in environmental inspections, and then hope that there's nothing else. You're going to pay for appraisals out of pocket, and they're going to set you back a couple grand. And if you're paying for a property or a building inspection, it's going to cost you more. And sometimes your lender will make you hire their building inspector, and that'll be a couple grand. So due diligence, it's not unusual when we're buying an apartment building that we're going to spend at least 20 grand in due diligence. And obviously that can get expensive if you don't buy a property. So what a lot of people will struggle with as a beginner breaking into the larger multifamily scene is really weathering those due diligence costs. Now, obviously, we can do a bunch of our due diligence before we have to do the expensive or out-of-pocket due diligence, but you'll eventually have to start building into your business model some way to recoup those costs, especially if you're taking on capital partners outside, because what ends up happening is your capital partners only ever get on board for the deals that work out, and then you end up covering the cost on all the deals that don't work out, and that ends up, if you're trying to make a lot of offers and be aggressive, you can end up spending a lot of money out of pocket. Austin's asking, with your level of success, there's always hardships and stress along the way. We're all human, so it's inevitable. So I'm wondering, is there anything that keeps you up at night? There really isn't anymore. Like, straight up, the stuff that keeps me up at night is like if I drink too much tea in the afternoon. So I didn't used to drink much caffeine whatsoever. Now I drink tea quite regularly. So if I drink tea in the afternoon, that keeps me up. If I do like a live performance or a talk and like it goes particularly well or the audience is particularly engaged, it can be hard to go to sleep afterwards. So often I find like the adrenaline's pumping, so I might be quite tired, but I can't actually fall asleep. But there's not things that like, there's almost nothing that can't be solved. So maybe I'm just extremely fortunate and I never find myself in scenarios where, worst case scenario is literally death or imprisonment for myself. So like those would be things that would keep me up at night. But I never find myself under those circumstances. So there literally isn't anything that like really keeps me up at night. My mind doesn't run wild, so like I may not fall asleep just because I'm jacked up on ideas or thoughts. One of my like biggest fears, but it's not something that keeps me up at night, is just like underperforming or not living up to my potential. And that sounds like super cliche, but legit, I'm just like, what if like this version of me is actually just like the worst version, and there's a version of me that could just be so much more impactful and just be so much better? I'm just like, oh man, like there probably is. I'm probably just too lazy to become that guy right now. So that's something that crosses my mind on occasion as I relight this joint. I'm at R1 8 zone in London, Ontario. How easy is it to convert to R2? It's going to be situational, but I'm going to say it's not going to be easy. Not easy would be my prediction. How do you get all your research for these cities, i.e. all the areas, specific industries? Just Google, man. Google is an amazing tool. So if you want to learn about a market, the first 3 things I recommend doing is checking out the information on Stats Canada. Get dialed in on the median income, get dialed in on the population, get dialed on the immigration projections out through 2040 or 2046, depending upon what data sets you can find. Then go to CMHC and look up the rental information for that market as well. So CMHC will produce every October, the vacancy rates for that real estate market. They'll produce the average rents for that market, and understand that those rents, like if you read like the qualifying statements on the data, I forget exactly what it says, but it's something to the effect of like, you'll draw the conclusion that CMHC rents are usually understated, if anything, so they're a nice conservative benchmark for you to use when looking at your data. And then look for your city or market's local like economic development board or economic development council or their business council, or it'll be some sort of weird acronym like that. And they'll produce a bunch of information and statistics on your city as well, just selling the city. And then finally, for bonus points, read the Wikipedia. Between those 4 sources of information, it's quite easy to become a expert on the market fundamentals and economy. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a real estate expert. You still need to study real estate and construction and things of that nature as well. But from just like kind of the understanding the overall market, that's very useful. How many times can you refinance? You, in theory, can refinance as often as you want, but that doesn't mean it's always going to make sense. Enjoying these late night smoke sessions. Awesome. Appreciate the feedback, guys. Who do you recommend as an investor-friendly realtor? Our boy, Jeff Weibel. If you didn't know, Jeff Weibel actually just took on a new agent, Spencer. And Spencer, we've got a really cool program for any real estate investors. If you guys want a realtor that's going to kick you in the ass and make you make more offers, send me a DM with just like all caps realtor on IG, and I'll hook you up with a special little program we're doing. There is a cost involved, So I understand that, but if you want a realtor to hold you accountable and make sure that you make 15 offers in the next 30 days, hit me up or hit up Jeff Weibel. Spence, are you going to do an update on any of the videos you did with Graham Stephan? I feel like you're setting up that question, Spence, but yes, we will be. You think it's worth still investing in KWC? You guys west of here still have good value and cash flow. Yeah, I'm biased, Steve, so I do think that we are very fortunate here in southwestern Ontario and London in particular. So I literally think we're in the Goldilocks zone where everything's just right. Cash flow's just right, appreciation's just right, market fundamentals are just right, employment's just right, our location is just right. Other than being in the snow belt, everything's good about London. So, yeah, that being said, lots of investors make lots of money in Kitchener-Waterloo and Cambridge. So it really just comes down to the business model you're looking to implement. Now, if the business model you want to implement is the BRRRR investment strategy and trying to do 1% cash flowing rental properties, well, yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to execute that business model in KWC. And you're going to be better served here in London, Sarnia, Chatham, Windsor. But on the flip side, you could flip in KWC and make great money, right? Matt Pichet makes a lot of really good money in Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge by flipping single family homes, doing duplex conversions and granny suites and things of that nature. So really just depends upon the business model you're trying to implement. All right, and so we're caught up on IG. What's going on YouTube? Where can see all the questions? Are questions from YouTube chat answered? Yes, I am. I'm alternating, guys. If you didn't catch on, I'm answering half the questions on Instagram, which is right here, and half the questions on YouTube, which is you guys. Shave. Okay, Lance, thanks for that. What is one better than the other, fixed interest rate versus variable? You know, it really depends upon your risk tolerance. So if you want safety, you know, a fixed rate probably will help you with your sleep at night factor. And a lot of beginner investors would be best served getting a fixed rate just because it's fixed. Now, historically speaking, you're almost always better off going with a variable rate. Arguably, we're at some of the lowest interest rates in history. So are you still better served? Who knows? I would argue that as information in trade is freely exchanged, which I think is a circumstance for society and the world that we all want. I would expect that free-flowing information in trade would drive cost of debt and the value of money as low as possible. So it would make me think that we should exist in a very low interest rate environment, as long as, you know, the world is mildly stable. And I mean, if we're mildly stable during COVID, it'd probably take a world war for us to be unstable. So barring certain black swan events, I think that low interest rates are just a reality. And because of that, you know, I would suspect if you're looking over a 3 to 5 year term, you're probably not going to actually see a significant difference one way or the other. But understand that if either one of those makes or breaks your business model, then I would argue you didn't have a strong fundamental business model in the first place. So if half a point, if a tenth of a point makes or breaks you, I mean, you were already living on a knife's edge. So something was going to cause you to slip. Maybe it was the interest rates this time, but had it not been the interest rates, it would have been something else. Do you still do your vision board? I'm not sure if you called it a vision board in your old videos, but you break things down into small tasks. Yeah, so I probably don't too often refer to it as a vision board, but I definitely try and keep my big goals top of mind, and definitely am always looking at them and challenging them. So right now, actually on the door to my bedroom, I've got a giant sheet of paper where I've broken down like my kind of 5-year goals and just, you know, trying to keep them top of mind. Also, as I mentioned earlier on this live stream, huge fanboy of J. Cole, so I literally like wrote on there also just his name, just to remind me for that desire to be excellent and just like hone my craft and become the best there is. So yeah, I just smoked some hash, still trying to determine if it's a good habit. Zach Cat, what do you think about house hacking a multi-unit home? I'm a newbie and looking to purchase a multi-unit next year as a first-time home buyer. Yeah, I think house hacking is the best thing that you can do, especially if you're young and you want to get control of your personal finances. And house hacking in a multifamily is fantastic. The average Canadian and the average American, for that fact, spends about 30 to 40% of their income on shelter. So if you can house hack in a scenario where you're able to live for free, man, you've got it made. You are so far ahead of the average North American that you don't even have to worry about the latte factor, pretty much. Now, again, worrying about the latte factor while house hacking will just compound the power of, will just compound your ability to save more and live off less, which is a very powerful equation, which will just like, you know, speed up your trajectory and get you into that hockey stick a lot faster. Tips on getting my mindset ready to invest outside of where I live. Yeah, Nick, if you're struggling with the idea of investing outside of where you live, the first thing I would do is just combat all that drama going on in your head with data. So like, talk to a bunch of investors in that market, find out who they use, build out a giant Rolodex, you know, talk to 10 contractors before you decide to do a project there and build a relationship already. You know, talk to 10 property management companies, go for a couple tours of the city if it's not that far away, or go for virtual tours by just walking on Google Street View, right, and checking it out. There is so much free information at our disposal. Just understand, buying real estate has never been easier, ever. Like the idea of doing this virtually 30 years ago, impossible. Do you guys understand how real estate used to work way back when? Like pre-computers and internet? Realtors just had binders of paper, and you would just like flip through the binders of paper and understand how slow that information would permeate the general awareness. I mean, now we can get all the information. We've got Google Satellite, we've got Google Street View, we've got all kinds of data, just the tips of our fingers. Hey Matt, do you only invest in London right now, or have you grown to other areas? So yeah, I'm still just Southwestern Ontario and here in London, Ontario in particular. But we are constantly looking just anywhere in this region, but I'm not really looking to expand outside of this region. I just don't see how I have a competitive advantage. And I'm kind of a boring investor like that. So while I'm not comparing myself to him, you know, you'll hear Warren Buffett or a lot of other successful, sophisticated investors talk about wanting, you know, a deep, wide moat. And for me, I believe that my experience, my dedication, my connections, my even social media presence gives me a competitive advantage in this market. So I'm going to focus primarily where I believe I have a competitive advantage. Would you recommend to a new investor to get a real estate license? Unless you want to become a realtor, I wouldn't. So a lot of people decide to get their realtor license because they want to be an investor, but they don't really actually look deep into the pros and cons. Here in Ontario, Canada in particular, you're going to have to do certain disclosures when buying private real estate, and understand that those disclosures will usually be more of a challenge than a benefit for you as a private investor. So it really depends on what you want to do. And again, I would just like caution anyone that thinks becoming a realtor is just easy money. While you might be able to do the occasional easy transaction, that doesn't mean that all deals and all transactions are easy. I think for the most part, most realtors mildly earn their commission, and good realtors always earn their commission. So yeah. What do you think of investing in Welland in the Niagara region? yeah, I know lots of people that are investing there. We've got lots of Cashflow Tribe members investing there as well. So yeah, and like the numbers in Welland usually sound pretty good to me. Like you can still get good, strong cash flowing properties in Welland. So you guys know I'm all about that cash flow life. Do you guys take bird dogs suggestions? Yeah, if you mean that if you've got a lead as a bird dog, would we be willing to look at it or potentially buy the property? The answer is yes. Would you ever recommend putting less than 20% down on a property as an investment? Yeah, as real estate investors, we're usually looking always at capital preservation and trying to maximize our leverage. So absolutely. I would love to always buy with less than 20% down if that was possible. Another way to think of it is why don't we buy properties all in cash? And the reason we don't buy properties all in cash is because of the value and power of leverage. If buying that property is a good idea, buying that property leveraged, assuming that the numbers still work, is also a good idea. The same thing that Dan Crosby talked about with just his first real estate investment wasn't buying a condo. It was like buying, I forget, 17 or 19 condos all at once. And his logic was literally, well, if it's a good idea to buy one, why wouldn't it be a good idea to buy all of them? And the same thing holds true overall with leverage and real estate investing. Have you ever sold your own property, or do you use a realtor to unload any properties? Yeah, I've done both. I've sold 1 or 2 properties privately when I knew it was going to be really easy, and I've sold properties on the market to get top dollar in other circumstances. Do you think house hacking and multi-unit is viable in London? Absolutely. It is absolutely viable, and it would be always my recommendation for any local Londoner. House hack, house hack, house hack. Always be house hacking. All right, guys. Hey, Matt, thanks for answering my first question. I have another quick one. Do you do your rentals under a corporation or as an individual? Really depends on the circumstances there. So there's no silver bullet answer in that regards. If you're new to real estate investing, I think in general, you're probably going to be best served just to buy personally the first couple and then likely move on to a corporation, unless you know that you want to really start a scalable investment from day one. Because the one thing for new investors, understand, you don't even know if you're going to like real estate investing. You don't even know if you're going to like the niche of real estate investing you've self-selected for yourself. So it might take a little bit of exploration, a little bit of trial and error to really get your sea legs and get locked into what you're trying to actually accomplish as an investor. So, yeah. I think most people want to jump to owning a corporation right away because they think it feels cool or sounds good or something like that. Understand that there's mainly just downsides to owning a corporation, particularly in Canada. Now in the US, where you guys love suing each other, completely different ecosystem, and you need to approach it completely differently. Understand I'm a Canadian. But here in Canada, you could probably just get like a $2 million umbrella insurance policy, paid maybe $1,000 a year for that. And that'll cover your ass for just about anything beyond gross negligence or fraud. And no insurance company or paper shield of a corporation is going to protect you from that shit either. So don't be evil, and it'll probably work out in Canada. Because if you're going to buy a corporation, understand that you're likely going to pay a higher interest rate. So literally the banks will just charge you a higher interest rate because you own the property in the corporation rather than personally. As a retail investor. So oftentimes you'll pay like 1% higher at the big A banks. In addition, you're still going to have to give personal guarantees on everything if you own a corporation. So it's not like you're creditor proofing yourself in that scenario either. And what are the other downsides? Your accountant's going to charge you more money to do your taxes because filing a T2, they just know they got you. Because very few people are going to file a T2 themselves versus a T1. And it's going to cost you money to set it up. You're going to have to keep minutes. You're going to have to do all that stuff. Now, none of it's that big of a deal, but those are all extra just little pains in the ass when you're first getting started as a real estate investor. So I would just encourage you to take that into consideration before just jumping in and setting up a corporation. But obviously, you should always talk to your legal and accounting professionals and get their personal, specialized input to your personal situation. Because, let's be honest, you're just a stranger on the internet. So I don't know, maybe you've got a lot of real estate and or you've got a lot of money or assets or other circumstances in your life, but kind of as general rules of thumb, I hope that that helps. Have you seen any CMHC changes? I don't think there's anything big going on with CMHC changes overall. Obviously, there's going to be a couple of small changes coming up. The big thing to understand with the banks, they're always going to change the rules. So we've got two choices, really, as investors. We can quit or we can suck it up and adapt. And understand that every time a new change comes into play, usually some people are going to use that as an excuse to quit. And when they quit, it just gives us more opportunities. So that's why we literally live by profits or profits. Some people would be like, oh my God, they're changing this rule. You know, this is such a big problem. And we're just like, oh, that's a profit center because some of our competition's going to quit because they're little bitches. So we'll just double down and work harder. When COVID-19 happened, I probably had one of the least inspiring speeches in a way to my team where I just told the wholesalers, I was like, hey guys, I'm going to be really honest with you. You're going to have to work twice as hard to make half the money during COVID. That's reality. And it was. So I really just like being frank, open, and honest with myself, with the team. Nope, my parents and family still think I'm crazy for buying real estate, so they were definitely not supportive there, Scooter. Don't you save money on capital gains if you incorporate? Pray tell. In Canada, real estate income in a corporation is considered passive income, so it's taxed at the highest tax rate. So that was one of the downsides I forgot. But you can obviously just income strip and still take it on personally. If I could go back in time, would I do the renovations myself? It's kind of a double-edged sword. So, like, realistically, I'm glad I did everything I did the way I did because it got me to this stage in my life. Now, that being said, I think I spent longer than I should have still doing the renovations myself. But that's not to say that I think every investor needs to go that path. I think a lot of investors could opt to never do a renovation themselves and still be quite successful. Oh shit. Did I regret going to Guelph Humber? Wonder if we ever crossed paths. I was in the first year class of the uni. Oh shit, Raz. That's cool. Yeah, I was the class right after you. So I was 2008 then. So my first year, we had the main, like the new building, but we also still had a bunch of our classes. The night classes were in Humber College because they were literally still doing construction on the building the year I went. So that's crazy, man. Or I don't know if Raz is a male or female name, but either way, that's cool that you went to GH. There was not a lot of people. Yeah, it was like a class of 200 your year. I think my year was maybe like, we were closer to, I don't know, 800? Because I think there was more than 200 just in the business class. Yeah, I had a couple of classes in the portables. Those were brutal. Man, that takes me back. All right, guys. Well, Instagram's going to kick me off in 40 seconds, so we're going to wrap up here. But appreciate the 30 of you here and the 55 of you there that hung out with me tonight and just listened to me ramble while I smoked a little weed. So hope you guys have a good night. Stay safe. Don't get infected, all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next video. And yeah, just go out, make more offers, guys. That's the answer. Make more offers, get more deals. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Facebook, as well. We're going to wrap up here, but it's been an hour and it's been a blast. And we'll see you guys next Monday at 9:20 Eastern Standard Time.